Well, hello everybody. Good to see you. Ecopoint Podcast. It's been a couple episodes in now, and a couple of months since we last got in touch. Those of you who joined, I've been really pleased to have you all on here. As you know, we're on Twitter, we're on Discord. You can always reach out to us at the Ecopoint Overwatch Podcast. And guess what? I've got a lovely friend of ours back again from last episode. It's Sans. Sans, how are you doing?
I'm doing brilliant.
Yeah, how brilliant has your last couple of months been?
Well, I've actually managed to get a free subscription to Xbox Game Pass and Netflix. So for like a month. So my last couple of months have been pretty isolated.
Oh,
but in a good way.
Good isolation.
Yeah.
It's the best isolation.
Good isolation.
Yeah. I've been at it for a couple of games, but not Overwatch, unfortunately. The game of life. It's just been a very ill-fated hand where the reason why we haven't had many episodes is due to some outage on my production PC. So I've been borrowing a laptop to try and get by, and the laptop, not necessarily doing anything wrong, it was actually really good as a laptop, but it just wasn't the same. I couldn't play Overwatch 2 on sub 30 frames like I used to back in the day. Times have changed. People have better PCs. People have 4K monitors that run at 369 hertz. That's the future. Overwatch 2 will be running on just much better spec PCs, and I was just lucky enough to be able to pick up Junkerqueen for a couple of matches on a laptop spec PC.
Hasbro really needs to patch their board games.
Their board games. Which ones were you talking about? All of them?
You said the game of life.
That was the one game of life that I wish I never played.
Oh yeah.
I was not lucky. I didn't get into retirement. In fact, we're still living it large here right now on the Ecopoint Overwatch podcast. So, how much time has passed since we last recorded? 3 months, 2 months, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah, at least.
We talked a lot about the preseason signings going to 5v5. I do recommend listening to that. It's just currently split into 2 episodes, but we'll see if we can do some editing magic in the future so you can come back to this. And so what we're looking at here is our current standings of NA.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, what has happened? What on earth has happened in the last 2 months?
Well, the teams played a bunch of matches, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
After 7 matches were played.
I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I think everyone had this coming for a couple of teams, but just to get here, that's a lot in the red. There's a lot in the green. So NA is looking very competitive. We've played through the Kickoff Clash tournament, and we've gone through to the Midseason Madness. I just want to see if we can come back to any of these expectations we had from preseason, because nothing makes me feel more happy than learning that I didn't predict anything that shouldn't have been predicted, that I was comfortable with. But look, this is where we are now. Gladiators on second, behind 2 points to San Francisco Shock. It's almost like it's 2020. Whatever happened? Dallas is third.
Well, yeah, Dallas third is not a huge shock to me, because I thought that for these past 2 seasons, or well, every season where the whole Element Mystic core of like Sparkle, Fielder, and Hanbin, that lot of been together, that they've all been quite a meta-dependent like group. And for the entirety of 2021, I just think that they... I won't say they struck it lucky when the meta revolved mostly around Winston Diva or Ball Diva Dive, alongside whether it's your traditional supporters or the Lucio Moira for the zombie comp. But it just seems like every hand that Dallas was dealt, they just managed to take it in the best way possible.
And so what were the compositions that we ended up with? So if you can vaguely remember back from where we were at Kickoff Clash, Sojourn was being played quite a tremendous amount because being the new hero, and this was around the time nobody had
In the
access.
Kickoff Clash.
Yeah, let's walk it back even further. The Kickoff Clash qualifiers.
So,
the qualifiers.
in the Kickoff Clash qualifiers, I swear there was only like 3 players that played Sojourn.
And what they did instead was Genji and Tracer, yeah.
Yeah.
Who were the biggest Genji Tracer players? I think Toronto really stood out to me. In this current standings, they're really mid. Finale, Genji? Hello? That was actually pretty good. But then you looked at Washington Justice when they faced off against Defiant. I think nothing could ever topple Decay. At least at the Kickoff Clash, if you bury your mind back all the way to May.
Well, I mean, Decay's Genji was pretty good. I mean, during the Kickoff Clash, let's not focus on the current standings. During the Kickoff Clash, the Washington Justice looked like a very solid team. Pretty much proving like what my doubts in this team before the season to be wrong. Only, I mean, granted, they did have like one of their best metas possible, where they could thrive with every hero as like comfort picks, only to, not make it that far in the Kickoff Clash tournament.
Yeah, if you were with any of these teams who we're looking at now as lower bracket teams, Paris Eternal, I'm not going to even talk about what happened to this team at this stage. We'll get to that. But Boston
talk about
and
what's
Vancouver,
going to happen on August 14th.
Yeah, let's see how far I can just stay in this past timeline, because Boston and Vancouver had basically run on comfort picks, but I know that Punk was really grinding out since the Overwatch 2 closed beta, before it was open to people to join and via invite. A lot of Doomfist was taught and learnt by many of these teams. Sparkle Doomfist is kind of cracked, but we never got that on the actual qualifying tournament matches. Justin streams, but Punk was actually fantastic for playing him on this team still after a couple of years and knowing their performance hasn't really been working out. But I think at least the couple of wins they have on the board is a start. But they've had to flip themselves, and unfortunately they weren't able to keep Striker on long enough or have any reason to keep him on board.
That's unfortunate.
Along with Marvel too.
I mean, Marv 1, was quite unlucky. Marv 2.
We didn't get Marv 2. That's the only reason they didn't succeed. He upgraded up a version.
I mean,
he wasn't ready for that.
I thought Marvel's Doomfist was pretty great, actually, for Washington, Boston Uprising. And I mean, granted, he wanted to go back to Korea, which is quite a shame, because I thought, like, with his Doomfist and with his Pocket Sigma, he would have been like a brilliant asset. Granted, let's ignore my thoughts on his actual main tank heroes. Let's just focus on his Doomfist and Sigma, because those are like at least some solid B tier like characters in his pocket. And I can definitely see why the Boston Uprising wanted him as like a third tank alongside Punk and Itzhal. It's just quite a shame that he had to go back to Korea.
Yeah, and anytime that I've seen Itzhal play, it's not undesirable, but the potential hasn't been unlocked, where my time with the Guangzhou Charge last year with Mandu was exactly that. He played very passively, and Kareev, as a standout of an individual player he could be, hasn't really been able to play so independently and above and beyond his own teammates. That in the case that he's actually on Florida Mayhem as one of their flex supports, only for a brief moment before moving on, unfortunately, to a coaching role, being replaced by a new member from the NA side onto Florida Mayhem. I think that's kind of the spot that most of these players do get a lot of hope, keeping them on the team, but you can't put them on for very long in the training wheels, because they're already live and playing with some of the world's best at this early of a stage in Overwatch 2, you can't still be in the phase of still learning how to play as a team. And it's an extremely short amount of time, a ton of pressure. So I can see why Marvel wanted to probably wrap up with Boston and move on to another team. I'm sure that's what exactly came to mind when someone approached him. That someone being No Hill, coach of the Los Angeles Valiant.
Potential coach of the year candidate, No Hill. Yeah. I
would object to that and give you the facts straight. Atlanta Reign, as subpar as they'd looked, they've actually tossed up a fair bit of challenge into the top 6. Just beating out the bottom only because of just how stellar OG and Ultraviolet are for an all-Western duo. Next
Gatekeepers once again.
Gatekeepers once again. Oh, we
Hello.
for more.
Yeah. Oh, one moment.
Sure. In keeping with that, Atlanta Reign, you have Nero, who is now sub for this team as DPS. Trying to mix that up with Venom. Hey, look, Venom has actually looked terrific on the squad. Venom and Kai, remember that. Venom and Kai and Venom. The way that these two mesh together, and with Nero's flexibility, it does leave for some unpredictability, so they're just not going to be that team at the bottom. They have a bit more versatility in their kit, and Kai's hit scan, it's still the finest, and deserves worthy of being in somebody's top 10.
Well, top 10, of course. I just joked about them being gatekeepers because they were consistently top 3 in these last 2 tournaments, but failed to make it to the finals.
That's a real sucker punch, that's for sure. They even got to go to Hawaii, and you'd think they learned from their mistakes in the past, but with this newer kit roster, maybe some nerves, traveling to Hawaii was very stressful.
Downgraded roster, might add.
The downgraded roster is...
Massive better than OGE.
I started to say I agree, but because of the competition that's up at this level, including London Spitfire, who's now crept up and pole vaulted over everyone's expectations after the Midseason Madness qualifiers. Hell yeah, I think they really earned this spot. Landon has looked like a real fragger that rivals the likes of Violet.
Yeah.
In the same role.
I mean, especially given Landon's expectations during the off-season. Like, I don't know if there's a single person who, like, made an argument for Landon being above the bottom 2, at the very least, in flex support players, including myself, sadly. But I just, at least I had faith in the entire team not being 20th.
But you have to remember last year,
so
2021.
Always a believer.
2021, it was be a believer because they have the talent. Innately, these players are still on this team for a reason. Hardy, Admiral, who's been signed to cover for, I believe it was, who played the Mora? Yes, Calyx, and I'm thinking of the Mora player from last year. Ripper. So that's a nice upgrade, Landon and Admiral. They've really polished well together, but more importantly, the significant impact of last year's remote play has really upped their game immediately. Like, you could see them more in real time against their opponents. They're playing in Dallas, and then they were successful enough to reach out to Hawaii. So there's definitely something that's always been there the whole time. So anyone who was doubting London last year and, saw the results, granted, that's fair, but to see them still on board and a lot of what faces, a lot of question marks that came up when Hattie was returning to be on that same role again, I thought it worked. I think that
Backbone's not a question mark. He's a top 5 flex DPS.
Backbone has definitely been a good and pleasant surprise with the kind of skills that Sparker can deliver. He's only looked better when he can play the Mei. Just like as a Sparkle had to play the Mei. If you put Sparker and Sparkle together, it's going to be the Sparker show easily. The hit scan prodigy. He's all grown up now. It's great to see my boy, fly the nest from this Discord server, which we are hosting this podcast, the Reddit Overwatch Discord. You can always check us out.
Oh, hell
Esports Discussion. Shout out to all the friends here who've checked us out and have had good talks and debates over these power rankings by players, by teams, by
Not
regions.
sponsored.
Not at all sponsored. Just love these guys. So, and then just coming back to this, London Spitfire getting ready for post-midseason madness. They have Junkerqueen to look forward to, as many of these other teams with their off tanks being put.
Or to not look forward to, depending on your views of the contenders meta.
The contenders meta. How much of contenders can we talk about today that you've followed?
I've only kept up with Korean contenders, the good region.
The solid and reliable, the one that does actually make it into Overwatch League.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
And from what I've seen, this, given each team's performances, once again, T1, Talon, and O2 Blast in the top 3. Some things just never change.
Talon as runners-up, that still remains the same, and not necessarily because of the players, they're just that good, but because their coaches and the infrastructure that's in these teams are so loaded now, with Shock being their academy team for
O2 Blast.
Yeah, O2 Blast being the academy team of San Francisco Shock. Up Academy is one that I've been, no surprises, been following very closely. Since they're not a Chinese team with a Chinese contenders roster, they're now a Chinese team with a Korean contenders roster. In a lot of ways, that's how Talon was brought up from contenders.
They're actually, I think it's the other way around. They're a Korean contenders team with a Chinese contenders roster. They moved over to Korean contenders to participate with a lot of the Team Chaser roster, who has now been promoted to the main team of the Guangzhou Charge.
Indeed. So let's go down to the Eastern rosters, because I can't wait to see what Guangzhou is. They must be at the top 6, right? They gotta be a top 7. There's no gambling. I know what the results are, but do show me. What is their map differential? Oh god, I think it'd be at least 25, 26, yeah. Negative 26, and they're at the bottom of the standings.
Yeah.
But not quite to the very bottom.
They still took Dragons to a map 5.
So we're not even the worst of the worst, because we got Vancouver Titans, who actually takes that spot with 36 maps lost and 7 maps won. Guangzhou has 8 maps won, 34 maps lost. So their map differential is only by 3 maps, but keep in mind, same number of qualifiers, still struggling to really get connected. And I had promises last year that MikeM was going to be good. I also had high hopes that Develop would be good this year. So some things really don't stand a chance in adapting as fast as I'd want them to, but they have more to look forward to this year.
If I'm being a bit of a Develop apologist, he is playing in the same region with Fitz, Lip, MN3, Leave, Shy, Pineapple, Carpe, Dia, and EasyHan. So, I think if Develop was in NA, he would at least be lower mid, potentially mid, and, not the worst. I just think he got dealt an unlucky hand coming into what is on paper a middle level team into a region that sort of eats middle level teams for breakfast.
Yeah, the opportunity is thriving for Guangzhou to at least get their second point for the last half of the season. This Team Chaser roster that was the former Chengdu Hunters Academy team. Unfortunately, due to a number of financial reasons, they are just not competing at all in Contenders China. So that adoption to Korea is actually a really solid decision. Because, again, these players are folks like Kaneki, X-Ray, Yveltal, who has now changed to Xerneas. And let's not forget Kyo, also a former Chengdu Hunters player from Overwatch League, and Aprissa, we've got 3 players on the Guangzhou Charge signed as two-way players because that would allow them to play in Contenders Korea. And 3 of those players being a Pritter, not
Jimmy.
yesterday. Yes, Jimmy. Jimmy has
And
actually been the most
Vernius.
exciting pickup amongst those 3 players. You had
Really?
your former master. Jimmy is unreal. He has looked like he's hit some peaks in Contender's career that he wants to bring along. Pritter, however, has been a different side of the coin, and that just might be recency bias. This new patch with the Junkerqueen, having seen them duel it out with the likes of T1, O2 Blast, with their new
I think rating a Pritter off of this new Junkerqueen Goats meta would be the same as rating Carpe or Corey off the back of the Goats meta in 2019.
Yes, when Carpe played Shudder.
Zarya.
A little bit of break, and Zarya.
And a little break.
Serbia.
What do you think the chances are of Carpe taking over the main support role from Fixer? Or Aim God in if this new meta comes to light?
I don't know. I have to ask our resident Philadelphia Fusion fan, former Philadelphia Fusion fan. Not Mike, I'm afraid, but Sans, I need to ask you again. Where did you have Philadelphia Fusion at the start of the season to now?
Nobi,
Hasn't met your expectations.
Nobi, one moment.
Yeah, sure.
One moment. I heard a Pritter slander.
No, you did not.
I did hear a Pritter slander.
Alright.
I was watching the live stream. So, I'm here to fight back.
Is this the Apprentice squad right here?
Well,
The
welcome back to
reinforcements
the
have
podcast.
arrived. I am not slandering a Pritter. I'm just giving off recency of their performance.
Okay, so a Pritter. We know a Pritter has not looked like a generational talent on the hard hit scan or anything. But the second a Pritter can touch the Tracer in a Tracer meta, that he is one of the best players in the world. On that character, he is top 5, without a doubt. Okay, now talk about the Fusion.
Okay, facts. I've got my facts straight. Thank you. But of course,
I
I'm glad.
I agree with
united
that. I was defending a Pritter like 5 seconds before you joined, but
No, see,
I agree with your take, Mike.
This is how I get improvised guests, because we're not improvising at all on this one. This is Mike, who was from our previous episodes. Hello there, Mike. I'm glad you woke up. How are you feeling after hearing that?
I woke up, I went to the YouTube homepage, I saw Ecopoint Overwatch, the first thing on my recommended. Test live stream, it's live. And I DM Sans, can I hop on? Then I realize y'all are in regular voice. I hear a Pritter slander, I hop on the PC, so here I am.
This is the first guest who has ever promoted
Hey,
the
I mean-
Ecopoint Podcast on stream, so you get a worthy credit, an internet token, a cookie.
That's true. I tried finding the window of opportunity to slide in your name, Mike, to potentially join into the podcast, which was probably going to be after I say that pre-season I had diffusion in like 5th APAC.
Okay, so both of you are really, really good at this. Who are the current players on the Philadelphia Fusion?
Carpe, MN3, Zest, Fury, Belisria, Fixer, and Aim God.
This is true.
And in what?
And Chara, if you count the coach potentially substituting in.
Potentially.
If Fixer was to become like severely ill and unavailable to play.
Yeah,
If
food
Fixer-
poisoning.
if
The spicy noodles.
Fixer
thing
comes
is
down
too
with
powerful.
monkeypox.
Yeah, man.
Monkeypox is a serious problem. Make sure you get checked if you're feeling symptoms of illness or dizziness. And all related symptoms. Similar to smallpox. Not smallpox. Chickenpox.
Exactly. See your doctor, unless you're American and you don't want a $10,000 bill.
I can see why people don't visit the doctor often. I just wanted to ask then, MN3 and Zest, good or no good? Are they what's carrying the team?
Brilliant. Them as well as Belisria in a Wrecking Ball meta are dragging the supports kicking and screaming to like top 2 in APAC in both of these tournaments.
Okay, so Mike, as a question in general across the teams in the East Division, Do you think it's possible that East team rises up again in time for the finals after Summer Showdown, and whoever makes it out of the Countdown Cup, whoever manages to survive above the cutoff, or I believe it's in the cutoff, that they'll be eligible if they're outside of the top 8?
Okay, so I think APAC will rise again, and I think certain teams like the Hangzhou Spark could make very big waves in a title push come postseason. But like the Midseason Madness was kind of a weird showing from APAC because most of the teams just flopped and Fusion decided to not be 5th for like 2 weeks. So I think we just had an anomaly tournament and that APAC will be back to competing with NA.
Yeah, so unfortunately we won't get this because the Midseason Madness just brought out so many different exciting storylines, even if they all centered back to NA. If we scroll back up, just seeing those results again between San Francisco Shock and who are the other teams in the bottom half of Midseason Madness in NA? You had Florida Mayhem, London Spitfire, and then 2 others. Could you scroll back up for me?
There you
Houston.
Go.
Oh, gosh. What's wrong with Houston? They have Pelican. They have Iris.
They're 4th.
Dante Doomfist. You know, they had something
Well,
of a unique
they currently
power.
have Pelican and Iris and Piggy.
Yes, I'm cautious
There
when I
are
say
big
that
rumors.
currently. That's what we are left with now. Why do you think at this stage that they're being looked at and looking into other teams? What in their performance has staggered themselves? Because I don't think it's anything like their opponent being harder. They can hit those.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it's anything to do with their performance. Because if it was performance related, Lastro would have been off the squad last tournament. You know, I thought.
Yeah, and Piggy too. Piggy is, I think, one of the 3 that you're mentioning might still be moving to another team.
Yeah, it's been mentioned that apparently, according to the rumors provided by Halo, that the management is looking to shift Pelican and Piggy as like a package deal. So who knows? Maybe the New York Excelsior shifts Yaki over to the Toronto Defiant alongside Kuki, and then they replace him with Pelican and Piggy. And then the Houston Outlaws are just left with a Merit, Dante, Lastro core, and they have to rebuild among North American contenders teams. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, but it's all speculation. Can't say for sure.
I would be excited to see Gig make the Overwatch League.
Again, yeah.
Gig comeback. That would be huge. If you compare it up with Dante, who probably is more attuned to the off-tank role, you could see him playing Junkerqueen for the team. I wonder how hard he fights.
I do not want to see Dante on tank. Since day one, I have hated the Dante tank so much. I think it's a throw.
It was such a good gimmick, though. You see, when there was the Dallas Fuel versus Houston Outlaws homestand, that they did that one show match. No, it's not even a show match. It was a genuine match for the ages to start the opening weekend, where you got ZP and Avast casting together. That was not even close to any of the APAC homestands in terms of just the amount of hype locally that was being generated. Online, especially, because it wasn't in Chinese time zones. So they had that advantage for them. And look, Houston Outlaws, that was a 3-0. Like, oh my god, if you could do that consistently to bring the surprise, which I think the system kind of tells you they want to keep doing that because it's working for them, to bring the element of Dante Doomfist and, you know, keep showing it off. Show it off as much as you can until Junkerqueen shows up. And then now there's a whole new thing for Dante to adapt to. I think he's really good at this stuff, to change tack whenever a new hero or a current one gets a buff that needs to be picked up. It happened with Sombra in Season 1. And she could do a whole bunch with the health packs. And ult charge all the way to now where he could just flex onto tank. Not the best tank, but currently it stands to be one of the most competitive tanks. But he needs to take it a step up. If another player like Gig could come in, that would be really, really good. Just to give a complimentary tank.
I'm very concerned. If you guys have been reading the Overwatch 2 beta patch notes as they've been coming along, Doomfist sucks now. So horribly.
What can you point to that makes them worse?
That's what people said last time.
Yes, they did say that about the power block.
No, because of like the slow. There's like no slow or anything on the slam now.
Sorry, I couldn't make that out. The rocket punch?
Slam.
No, the slam that used to have the slow effect doesn't have that anymore.
Oh yeah, so, that's gonna feel a bit janky, isn't it? You're
Yeah.
used to the extra perk of landing the slam and then be able to chase it up because they're not too far from the landing space.
Although, you know, people did say that Brig was going to be garbage now when they removed her health packs giving armor, and she's still one of the most consistently viable characters in the entirety of Overwatch. So, who knows? It might be a bit of a cheese pick, but probably not in this upcoming meta, because I think I saw, what was it, Max trying to stall as Doomfist against Talon in the finals, and he got absolutely melted by the Junkerqueen.
Oh yeah. So can we talk about Junkerqueen to just understand what kind of hero are we talking about here? What are her abilities?
So she has this one really busted ability, that probably breaks her basically.
There's only one.
It stacks with amp speed. It makes everyone 30% faster and gives them 100 health. And there's this one really stupid tactic that you can do sometimes, where if you jiggle around a wall, everyone gets 200 health instead. And that stacks with the amp speed, so you can just be running down people with an 80% speed boost and 100 health.
Wait, does it stack with Rally as well?
So with
Rally doesn't give a speed boost to teammates, but
yeah, you're right, because we can also see that they've been playing a lot of Genji in contenders on top of the Zenyatta or Brig, or they spiced it up with Lucio and Brig for the extra brawly. And I say brawly because, yes, this is the revival of GOATs, isn't it? Is this a zombie comp that we've been dreaming of?
I don't think you can call anything the revival of GOATs. I think that's stupid, but yeah, it's brawl.
Well, I mean,
controversial indeed, though.
People referred to as, the zombie comp during the June Joust as the revival of GOATs. But, thankfully, that sort of stuff only lasted for one meta, which is probably how long GOATs should have lasted, just for one meta. Because
just for one meta, it would have made a difference, rather than the very, very awkward pool of people on the extreme ends of
almost
actually
the
still
entire
want this.
season.
Yeah, and then the ones who will detest it when they see it on site. They want to, shut down or, have that reported in the internet. Because people on Twitter will totally rile up with that. If it's a negative sentiment, people will really dislike or support that. And that's fine. That's fine. More power to you if you've got the platform to say this is a terrible comp, because saying something's nice or even acknowledging something's nice is hard to do these days. Like the fact that we even have a sequel coming out this year after it's been delayed more than 2 years for many of us, it does feel like this is something we were long overdue to come into, but we're not even playing it right now. Right now, we've finished 2 betas and we're not expecting another one, but we are having an announcement that did tell us we'd get it in October. Thanks to good old Microsoft for giving us that announcement through their gameplay trailer announcement videos. They had a good series of them, and that way you can use your Game Pass. Yeah, use that Game Pass for us, and I'm sure we'll catch up in October for some proper games. The 3 of us, it'll be good.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about Washington? Mike, I want your opinion on Washington Justice.
The Washington Justice are a shitstorm. Currently, it just feels like they have no idea what they're doing. And it feels like everyone in the public thinks it is a high-budget team that's aiming for championships. But being someone who has sat down with the Washington Justice vice president or whatever the fuck, I don't know, Aaron Thill,
Yeah,
I've learned that the Washington Justice are like a mid-budget team. They're trying to like make the postseason. They're not trying to do much more because that's just what their budget allows. Like this is a team that we should be expecting to do better than they are currently, but this is not a team that is flopping from championship expectations.
What they might be doing is another Shawshank Redemption moment where they're just coming from the bottom and make their way towards the top just by the playoffs or Countdown Cup qualifiers alone. If they can get that placement in there, no matter what they're positioning, then the playoffs decay will actually come up. But the only way that happens is if his team is also set up to join him. Because Happy looks really good on this team, but I could say that as much as I want because they've got the charge bias. That Happy does look really good on this team.
Happy does look S tier, I will admit.
He hasn't always looked S tier, but at least I'd be confident in saying this guy is actually keeping these guys together and putting them on the same page to actually get to the other side of the regular season alive. Yeah, show us a clip from any particular match, because I haven't paid too much close attention to these matchups. Boy, that one's unexpected. I didn't see this one coming at all. But neither did Boston fans. If I'm not mistaken, Washington Justice against Boston kind of looked like it was going to lean on Washington Justice, but they folded. Where did they crack? Wasn't there a draw on this map?
There wasn't a draw. The first draw was in the Glads match, the first draw of the year.
Oh.
Against the Outlaws.
Yes. Hey, look, that was pretty impressive that we did manage to get a draw after all these different game modes promising not to have draws, or at least very unlikely. Your control never does.
And it was very unlikely. It took us 300 maps?
Without Assault, yeah, it's good 100, 200 plus maps, surely.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track, but based on the counter or the number of map differentials, it would be over 200. Somewhere.
If Overwatch really wanted to eradicate draws, by the way, they could literally only have King of the Hill in the game.
They could just make it 2 game modes. Push and pull. And pull, I mean...
Push can draw.
Yeah, control. Would be easily.
Push can draw.
That is true. The conditions to draw is because of the delay between the bot, and they could easily have changed it to some other way to avoid it altogether, but this is the only way to ebb the flow. What are your thoughts on push maps in general? We've seen 2 tournaments worth, 2 patches worth.
And we've seen 2 push maps.
It's like 2.5, isn't it? If we talk about one of the tournaments where they changed the patch. Or did they not change it at all?
If you want my real and true takes...
push, yes. Honest to God. I want the best positives, best negatives.
The push game mode blows... Colosseo blows, but New Queen Street, the map design is great. It's just hindered by the game mode, but it is better than 2CP. So not from a viewer experience, but from a player experience, is better than 2CP.
Yeah, I think the viewer experience is hindered by the players if they're not enjoying themselves on this game mode. Now, I think that's visible only because we've had extensions to the game time of push from Kickoff Clash to Midseason Madness. So it went from, I think it was 8 minutes to an extended 10 minutes. So they added 2 more minutes to the clock. Was it worth it? Yes, because more time on the map would allow the attempts to try and make a comeback. But if I've seen it happen a couple of times between teams, whether it's Shock being very dominant in different sort of team fights, and they still can't push it back, no. It's usually the other way around. They always push it back. It's Atlanta who would get team swipes and still can't get it, pushing towards past the objective to win the map.
If I'm being honest, really I think push needs to have a faster, the robot needs to be a lot faster if it's like in your territory and you're pushing it back.
Yeah, he needs a bit of a sprint. Not the one that he has currently, but even faster. There were some other suggestions. Go on.
And then obviously, like, current sprint speed would still hold, like for when you get into your like the enemy territory, but areas you pushed, he would probably have his current sprint speed. But like, there definitely needs to be somewhere where like, if they push like 110 meters and you stop that shit, the bot should be fucking zooming.
So you want him to just like break through the walls of the environment and then just catch up onto the other side? Because you know how it's all snaked out like that, where he should be able to like cut through. Humanly or environmentally, he can't do that right now, but it would be way more convenient than having to do the entire snake hold if he walked at the same pace and he just like cuts through.
Do you think the robot should be able to do some parkour if the barricade is at a certain spot on Colosseum?
To be honest, I just think he should do Usain Bolt
over
stuff.
The bridge.
No, just like Godzilla, and he just like climbs over skyscrapers if we had taller buildings. These buildings aren't particularly high.
Well, New Queen Street has some higher buildings.
Godzilla's pretty flexible. He's just hindered by his massive tail. The bot does not have a tail, so he should be able to push his way back to the other side, not having to skirt through the same walking paths as before. But look, limitations of the engine, just trying to theorycraft how you can make push better is really rough. But I think it could use some more changes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I wonder why Godzilla's not flexible.
I think Godzilla needs to do some stretches.
What about Manila?
I think maybe...
Is Manila smaller? Do we have a height for Manila? Isn't that that's a city in Philippines?
Yeah, that's the capital of the Philippines.
Maybe it just needs to shrink by like 300 feet.
Just to be 55? Do we have any stats on the height of the pushbot?
Not that I know of.
In Overwatch. 500.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not going to know which pushbot we're talking about. Have you seen some of the pushbot racing games?
Nope.
There's pushbot racing?
Yeah, you can push into a custom game and you can change the modifier of how fast it walks, but it's only global, so you can't like change it the way that you want it to, unless you deep code it and how the pushbot works. I don't think
once we get
enough.
Once we get actual workshops, it'll be.
Now what are we looking at here? Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Oh, an upcoming game mode.
Yeah,
it's
still up and coming until it's October. October 10th is the time that you want to be ready for the game. It is free to play, so you can be optimistic about that. This is pushbot racing. You strap Belisariya to the bot, and then he wins the game. The only drawback is that it's only available on these two maps, and you just showed just how much you condense the entire game down to this entire map, which has, it's a mirror of the other side in some ways. And this is the only main part of the game that you get to experience, is objectively this entire lane that it travels around, or the vertical height. That's what I like about Colosseo over Queen Street. New Queen Street, though, it is a solid map. I just think, what would you expect if there was a third map in the works next year? What would you want as a dream push map? Using the current settings.
Push map?
Yeah, with the way it's currently set up for 10 minutes. You have to have a barrier and a...
I think there should be a push map in space. They could rework Horizon Lunar Colony into a push map.
Honestly?
Not a bad idea, if you want to make it more vertical.
I was going to say a vertical push map.
How much more vertical can you get? Because I think we're all basing this off of, the existing game mode on Team Fortress. There's is it a payload map? Yeah, it's like a payload map, but they both go at the same time. That's different to how it's set up in Overwatch, where it's the single push bot and he goes back and forth. Copenhagen. They hosted it in Copenhagen, the Team Fortress 2 tournament. That's wild for any of our audio listeners. You can definitely check us out on Spotify and on Google Podcasts. I was hoping we'd also expect some familiar faces as well, but I'm guessing that's more of top of the hats or tip of the hats kind of matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is Team Fortress 2. That is for those who have not heard of it at all. It's 8 versus 8. 16
For those that have
players.
been living under a boulder.
Team Blue and Team Red, and you've got your Tracer-looking fella who has a tiny shotgun instead of little dual pistols. You got your Engineer, plays a lot like Torbjorn, but he has his own choice of rifles, as well as his own turret, and a reloading machine called a dispenser for ammo and healing your teammates. Just stands there on point. He can pick it up and move it along as he likes. But yeah, this is really frantic. This is what Overwatch continues to build on top of, this kind of gameplay. And it looks like we have to give a mic for the time being. Oh, you're back.
Oh, he's back.
My bad, I did a little lagging out.
Oh, that's okay. The lag on the screen, though, I have experienced a little bit of it, so that would probably be due to the limits of our recording. Now, what we've got here, optic.overwatchleague.com.
Yeah, this is how you access the Hangzhou Spark.
Yes, Hangzhou Spark is actually Team Optic.
The second best team in the Overwatch in APAC, easily.
To alleviate any genuine confusion, though, Dallas Fuel's parent company Envy has merged with Optic Gaming over on the Call of Duty side. So there's no more Dallas Empire, but Dallas Fuel still remains the same because they are they still remain the same. That's a good thing I can tell you. Please don't write Rule 44.Overwatch League. I don't think that exists on the Spark side of things. Looking at this roster, Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai Dragons first week back as the Summer Showdown qualifiers.
Seoul win again.
You think
easily.
Seoul? Yeah, handedly Seoul should be bouncing back, right? Or is
Sorry,
Hangzhou going to step their foot?
I think Spark wins. 3-0.
Spark propaganda.
Okay,
Sorry,
we didn't talk about Spark propaganda. What the heck is that for anyone who's not heard about it?
It's propaganda that shows that the Hangzhou Spark are a top 3 APAC team. Always have been and always will be.
So there's a certain degree of people that do not believe in the Hangzhou Spark and have never believed in the Hangzhou Spark. Then there's people in the community such as Sans, Reinforce, and myself who believe vehemently in the Hangzhou Spark to do wonderful things in the APAC region. And we will spread that propaganda.
Has that propaganda spread been successful, though? Are people still
yes, it has, because...
Have they been printing for or against Spark more often now? Have you noticed that trend?
I think noticeably people have, with the Hangzhou Spark being more consistent, I mean, if we just go down to the standings right now, they're second in APAC. They're above the Shanghai Dragons.
Heck, I'm quivering, dude, because they scored the same, just minus 2 points because they didn't win the Kickoff Clash. Kickoff Clash qualifiers on the east side was won by Seoul Dynasty, west side LA Gladiators, which we'll come back to that once we have some VOD footage we can switch back to. Hangzhou Spark, though, yeah, they're on their way up in a very dangerous position to actually take the crown off of Shanghai and Seoul. Why Shanghai isn't catching up, I don't know. Maybe they just aren't looking as good as they did last year.
Yeah, I think they're struggling with Overwatch 2 as a whole. I think they're the best. They would still be one of the best teams of Overwatch 1, but we're not in Overwatch 1. I think some players, particularly their supports, are struggling to adapt to Overwatch 2. And with a lot of the league, continuing to catch up to the level that was the peak of the Shanghai Dragons, they're starting to falter a little bit. Or maybe they're also losing motivation, They won 2 regular season... not regular season, they won two regular season tournaments, and the playoffs.
Shanghai was first in the regular season standings 2 seasons in a row. Like, it was kind of like the season 4 shock, where they said they were going for the 3-peat, but they didn't really have the motivation to do it anymore.
Yeah, but maybe
like that's something that was said by some shock players.
Maybe
and I think it could be the same thing with Dragons.
Yeah, maybe they're just losing the motivation and they just want to play for shits and giggles.
Yeah, and saying that, what about then?
Who knows? I'm not a psychologist.
Can we ask our resident specialist who's wearing a Guangzhou Charge profile picture the full tell of the Chengdu Hunters franchise from Season 3 to now, who still have Leaf, still have Jinmu. They've retooled with Gaga instead of Among, our Lord and Savior on Wrecking Ball. And
you telling me you want the full story?
Enough of the full story that I'm not going to fall asleep, so make it good. I know you can. I believe in you.
Alright, so Season 2, the Chengdu Hunters come in with some unknown players from the Mickey Mouse-ass Chinese region, like Ji Qiren, Bacon Jack, some people who haven't played Bacon Jack, who was coming off of only playing PUBG for a while. People like that.
Yang Xiaolong.
A-Ting from, Talon. Pacific
was Season 3, but
yeah, we were mixing up the 2 and 3, and that's okay. We're trying to make our way towards Season 5 and how we've gotten with this roster. If you could walk me through from 3 to 4.
So from Season 3, the Chengdu Hunters didn't do too great. They did like much of the same stuff they did in Season 2 with their roster. And then in Season 4, they pick up some players that did stellar in Chinese contenders. Like your monks, your farways, etc. And with that, they looked much better in Season 4. And then all of a sudden, going into Season 5, they have a roster that looks just as good. You still have Faraway, you still have Xerneas, you have the goat of Tracer, Prita. And then everything just like all of a sudden the stocks go way down.
They're Thanos now.
They plummet.
That's right, they did announce. We did talk about the announcement and signing of a Prita on this team. That was really going to be a full upgrade. Like, just a wholesale upgrade. Or at least a part and part side grade if they're going to keep on your Jinmu for many other matchups with Leave. But Leave and a Prita would have been really good. Now it's just... Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the stream, the podcast, the decision for Yveltal and a Prita... basically, no, just whole of Team Chaser, sorry, is just moved on to Up Academy, who have purchased and, given them a spot over it, not in Chinese contenders, because they would have slammed that, but now to Korea, where they've got to play with some of the best, with the Overwatch 2 meta, with the Junkerqueen patch. It is possibly a good sign, you reckon, for Guangzhou?
With these pickups?
With
definitely.
These pickups.
100% each pickup that they have made is an upgrade in every way, as much as I like T1 and those associated with them, Unique has not been great this season.
That's
whereas, Xerneas, you just need to watch him to know that he's a great
he is an all-time great
player. When he's not reading manga and watching live streams, he's a great player.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, it's probably
I love
right
Rio.
Now.
I love Rio. That's true, yeah. There's always a possibility. Might need to get a translator for him, but, when this gets translated to Xerneas, he's a great player. In case he wants to sponsor the stream.
So the real question is, the new signings are fantastic parts that should help rebuild the Guangzhou Charge. So for my Guangzhou Charge fellow friends, they are also aware we had to give up Ayven and Rio, 2 legends of the team.
Yeah.
It's just what happens for these rosters. They have to blow up with their original former core. Now they have Krong still, and
they've still got Krong and Choi Se-Wan, who were undoubtedly there, in the off season. They were easily the 2 biggest shining bright spots for this team. and even during their performances, they were easily the biggest shining bright spots for this team. And, keeping them, I think, was a very smart decision. And I think they'll complement the rest of this former Chengdu Hunters core very nicely.
Yeah.
Okay. And can I ask?
Would it be a bold? Sorry to interrupt. Would it be a bold take to say I think they're going to make the Summer Showdown?
The Summer Showdown being hosted by the Toronto Defiant.
Yes.
Given many people are saying the Guangzhou Charge are still 6th or 7th APAC after the pickups, I would say yes, that is a hot take, but it's one I agree with.
In the same vein that you have to look at LA Valiant and they're not above your top 5. Are they still?
I don't know. I think Charge are better than Valiant
just because of current standings. They should be able to go higher, right? They can punch above their weight. They have many times.
Oh yeah,
I would have Charge.
How many map 5s did we get from Valiant in their regular season? Because they didn't qualify either tournaments like Guangzhou.
Too many.
Too many.
As many as the Houston Outlaws this stage.
Well, if we could look at a map 5, why don't we switch over to that on stream? Because right now we're looking at 2020 footage with Striker and Rascal and with 6 players. God, this feels like it's like watching bar charts that break the ceiling of the y-axis. That's what I'm looking at, or the x-axis, because it's stretched out so much. Give me 5v5 footage of Shanghai versus LA Valiant versus Chengdu. You know the one.
Oh.
I think they've only played them twice.
The
one with the most views. I think was it mid-season?
Oh yeah.
Was it kickoff? Did they go 0-7?
Was it the map 5 or the one where they
Oh, we'll see. We'll see together.
Ended the one where they ended the streak. Is that the one you're wanting?
I think this is the one where they end the streak, isn't it? On the kickoff.
Kickoff clash, yeah, it is.
1-6. So what we're seeing here, map 5. No, map 4.
No, it's not a map 5.
This is one of my favorite parts of this map, if I'm not mistaken. Look, Diaz on Soldier 76. That's right. They played a lot of Soldier during kickoff clash, and that's comfort picks. Like by definition, the definitive comfort pick is to play the tutorial hero.
I mean, Valiant did go to map 5 against the Dragons, the Spark, and the Seoul Dynasty in the kickoff clash, which
in the Guangzhou Charge.
No, hard no. They just either won or they flat out got crushed 3-1.
I mean, it was. They lost 3-1 to Charge and Fusion in kickoff clash.
Yep, and then Midseason Madness, they've spiked in stonks on hoot.gg, not sponsored, but definitely a great community place to simulate stock market sharing with your predictions.
I know Kenobi and I have made bank off Valiant.
I would be a billionaire if I knew about that website with my stocks on the Hangzhou Spark and the LA Gladiators, but
Yeah, a lot of people would have just spent their high bar stonks on, say, Shark or Dragons and watch it go higher and higher. But if it's this competitive a season, that's not the stonks you want. They're already too expensive. They're barrier of entry. Your chances of loss, especially on Shanghai.
Those are the worst possible stocks to get.
They're not cheap. They're not cheap for a reason. Your blue chip stocks are not the same as your red chip stocks, which is what I'm calling those ones, the red chip stocks. Yeah, you go low, like Washington Justice at their lowest points, which is, I believe, just early into the kickoff clash. They were just barred really low. No one was buying those stocks. London Spitfire was on their lowest points on like 18th. Because they hadn't come up
until they beat the rain.
Yeah, and they've bolstered themselves quite solidly into the top 8 of all the stonks on that website. It's hilarious, amazing, just how much it simulates the trends of popularity, but also in just inherent skill at the same time. So while it's not an official power ranking, because it shifts between individual stonks, which is the virtual currency on the website, you don't use real money. It's all given to you in the currency that they have, it has a competitive ranking system, but no buy-ins. It's all just your set amount of stonks and how much you keep investing. You keep it going higher. You can make buys and calls, pulls and puts. If you think the team is going to do well, you can try and put money onto it at a certain rate. And then if they do as predicted, you get your returns. Funniest thing ever is to run a virtual stock market.
It is fun.
Run by Quincy, a great community member along Dallas Fuel, a great coder. That takes a tremendous amount of big brain power to make a virtual stock market.
It does. Speaking of essentially a virtual big power ranking maker, I suggested this as like a nice little segment to post our preseason power rankings, in the chat and just compare, see how we all did.
Yeah, can I see our power rankings, please? Those are the most important.
Yeah, of course.
We started off with, I think it was probably one of the most controversial power rankings. It's because we didn't have much time to think about it, so we kind of went with our gut.
Yeah.
It still holds up, but I think there are some that just didn't quite fall through, so I just want to start with the more embarrassing cringe.
Oh, yeah. Well, my power rankings are very half and half. One half could not be more accurate. The other half is just questionable takes, which made sense at the time, but looking back, I'm wondering why I even thought of it.
Yeah, well, let's find out if you can. Yeah, see it.
Scroll down
up on your side, Mike. If you got the chance, if you do have your pre-season power rankings, I'd love for you to share that with us, or share it to.
I do have them somewhere.
Yeah, message them straight to Sans as soon as you find it. If it's a link or a photo, either's fine.
Well, I'm
scrolling up way far in my DMs with Mr. LSD right now.
I'm just scrolling through my capture gallery to try and find 15th of
once
May.
you found it, just jump straight to our one and I can break it down for you just how we worked through those. In the meantime, I'm happy to cast what is a 5-team blowout by LA Valiant.
I have sent it to you.
Okay.
Oh my, this is such a convincing push from such a bottom.
Hypixel Skyblock is such a vibe.
Right, let me copy the image. How do I?
I think you have
which
to
one of us
tool.
is?
My copy paste doesn't ever work within the app.
Alright, Kenobi, this is first one is Mike's.
Okay.
I believe that I'm sending to you. I don't know how the podcaster is working. Can the viewers see that?
No, the viewers cannot see that currently. So you'd have to show that as a separate window on a Chrome tab.
Alright, let me.
So I will be able to edit portions of the video out, so help with simulating. That's okay. Yeah, so end of the stream, but you can just bring it back up.
Stream Discord. Which should work eventually.
Yeah, there
we go.
Yeah, there it is.
This on screen is Mike's power rankings. I believe if I click open original, that ought to take me right here. So, what do we think about these? First of all, I can see that. Oh wait, no, I actually need to stream.
Yeah, you're looking at the same one.
I need to stream the other part. One moment. There we go. Is this visible?
Loading.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I can hear you fine.
Yep.
Mike, you didn't have the Hangzhou Spark in top 3 APAC. That's questionable. Yeah.
Sans, do I need to explain my APAC take with Spark not being top 3?
Yeah, you do actually, because I had enough faith in the Spark to be top 3.
Well, you see, I had enough faith in the Spark to be top 3 as well. If the Chengdu Hunters happened to flop, which do I need to explain my APAC take with Spark high? So,
I mean, after the Chengdu implosion, I still had them like. Oh, where did you have them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. I had Chengdu at 6th. Even after the implosion, before the implosion, I had them at like 4th. And I had Spark at like what, 7th overall, 7th or 8th, that's because you're a non-believer, Kenobi. You should have watched Chinese Contenders. Alpha Yi and Irony are nutcases. What can I say? Exactly. Let's see. Anything else? Damn. I see this. Maybe it's because I've got too many tabs open. Maybe I don't know. But or I can just stream here. You can mute the stream so that it doesn't echo on through your microphone through the actual stream.
Hey, we figured it out.
You know, right about here is.
Oh, what's all this then?
This is Mike's preseason power rankings.
What does it mean when London Spitfire's at the bottom?
It means that he is a non-believer.
It means that the London Spitfire, where by all accounts the worst team in the league roster-wise.
That is not true.
It's true.
That is not true. They were supposed to be the second worst team.
I think you are way too. I think you are one spot too low on the preseason Boston Uprising.
I don't know. These are mine. Which probably questionable best looking back, but just an opinion.
Indeed.
Granted,
at the middle, just above Atlanta.
Yeah, a lot of this was very interchangeable, but going back to Mike's, I'm looking, Atlanta and Soul Believer. I can't exactly blame you for that. I like that you had faith in the Defiant, like a rational human being, that sees Muse, Chorong, and Twilight all on the same roster, and Hisu. That's an appropriate take.
Okay, let's see mine.
Is it one more thing? Is there a reason why you had the Outlaws 4 spots below the Shock, despite the Outlaws having a very similar roster to the Shock?
Why?
Yeah,
because the Outlaws were the Shock worse at the time.
I know that. Well,
at every position, they were worse. So I just considered them to be 4 spots lower, because at least the Shock have some superstars to balance out the fact that their roster was had many holes preseason.
I don't know. I liked. Was this ranking made before or after Super got replaced by Kaluge?
Sure.
Before,
okay,
right?
After.
After that.
I don't rate super high at all. I thought they upgraded.
Yeah. To be fair, so did I, but I still had faith in Piggy. I really liked what I saw from Piggy in 2021. I liked what I saw from Pelican in 2021. I thought Merit was, at the very least, equal to Kilo from what I saw in Contenders when they were swapping playtime. And I came up with some copium that Lastro would be better at main support than he is at flex support because he underperformed on flex support because he has a main support brain. I don't know. That was a part of my copium and what edged the Outlaws quite high up for me. And granted, with this on screen right now, Outlaws and Shock were just interchangeable.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Preseason wise, without knowing their expected performance, yeah, of course everyone had London at the same spot as before. It's the same roster, same simple decision.
Hey, I had London above 20th. I've always been a believer.
That's a strong believer. I had Florida a lot higher. But their recent performance, if they're trying to build up their players, they're running out of time to be able to exceed my expectations. You can have a look at mine. That's actually pretty accurate. I'm not lying to you. I did have Florida way higher. Just tell me that you
Kenobi,
don't. Just show it. Show the power rankings, and it will make a lot more sense. I just still had them much higher, and it's just so much more obvious. You'll have to go back to Twitter. Did I send you a Twitter link?
You did, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Updated power rankings. No, just after. There we go. From the Ecopoint Podcast.
Oh, these ones.
Yeah, just jump straight to it. Those are my power rankings. I'd like to share them with you. Switch over to. Yeah, that's it. Look at it in all its glory. You can't deny that this is the cleanest power rankings in the preseason. It's just so tight.
Was this before or after the Chengdu implosion?
This was before Season 4.
Oh.
So it still remains relatively the same.
Why did you say Overwatch League 2022 then?
Because I'm consistent. I kept the same power ranks from 2021 to 2022. Nothing changes.
Kenobi, it kind of looks to me like you went to slmn.io, you realized that their power rankings were perfect, and you didn't change them.
I had no reason to change it. What in world is the Washington Justice better than Vancouver, huh? When does San Francisco Shock go above Philadelphia?
I mean, if you can read the alphabet, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Why does anyone have a variation of this? There is the only one that puts Gladiators above the Valiant. Convincingly above. Yeah. Neck and neck, I dare say.
Yeah.
Alright. Before we go into another segment, I'm just saying, Hangzhou Spark, always believed. The Philadelphia Fusion, I might not have believed. But, I mean, the Guangzhou Charge above bottom 5, that's belief. And I always believed that the London Spitfire would be better than the Boston Uprising.
Okay, but to wrap up then, as a final question, as to the understanding of these preseason rankings, were they your power rankings? Where you pictured them before and after certain events, just before the kickoff clash really started and we had our opening weekend in May? Or were this is how it's going to end? Because I think that's something that's been debated back and forth. But were these just power rankings in the sense you were predicting where they are currently?
I thought this was just going to be. I thought this was just going to be how each team, based off of the rosters before the season started, I thought this was how each team was going to place and perform for the whole of the season. except for the Seoul Dynasty, I had to put them in 10th because they've had an inconsistency curse for the past 2 years, which has sort of carried on for this year.
With or without
They've
gesture,
got some
right?
propaganda to spread.
It's got to be profit.
So, Seoul was wildly consistent in season 4.
Well, there were.
Season 4 with 6 players. I
Well,
don't actually see
season
anything
4
wrong with that.
with gesture forcing Hog during the regular season, I would argue is not very consistent.
It wasn't
but,
the greatest honeymoon phase after coming second place in 2020, given all the odds and all the difficulties of their opponents during.
Well, yeah, but 2020 was
online
even
play.
more inconsistency because for 2 tournaments they made the finals, the other 2 tournaments they were near invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of took a spade and, while not burying their graves any lower, it's like a centimeter off the ground, and they just kind of put the casket there. It's present, and it will continue to dominate at a certain level.
Yeah.
That's why they're consistent. But consistency in terms of the winning sense, you finally got it. You finally got it after 5 years. Congratulations, the Kickoff Clash champions, Seoul Dynasty. With the current kit they have, Fitz and Stalker do look fantastic, and Prophet has just always remained the least consistent part, I think, of the entire roster. Because you can always peak, but shouldn't you be staying there if you're able to keep that going? I mean, that's just what happened with Midseason Madness, I think.
Prophet's hero pool can be quite limited, despite what people say about him being the greatest of all time. You know, his Genji isn't, up to par with, like, I don't know, you like the likes of, I don't know, Zest and Who Are You, I guess. It might be a hot and leave. No, I'm reading out the Genjis in this region. I'm realizing it is actually up to par, but it's not as top tier as his other heroes like his Tracer and his Hanzo, and neither is his Echo and his Mei. Prophet is a bottom 3 Echo in the APAC region, yet he's one of the best Tracers and Hanzos, in the entire game. Or at least can be when he has a good day.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Profit on tank is not ideal unless it's a Roadhog, but I've not seen it in so long that you might kind of default him back to being a bit less of a...
I'm not advocating Profit tank.
Not with Echo's Overwatch 2 balance change, where she now has maximum 300 HP. People have been using more DPS and even support duplicates way more often, because it helps with saving the team and keeping the team fight alive. Or just shutting things down, because they have the other DPS to play with.
That's agreeable. I just think that this whole, movement that people have started for saying Prophet is the greatest of all time, when his consistency has ironically consistently fluctuated throughout his entire career, just sounds crazy. When arguably Birdring would be a better candidate for that title, or even Lip, despite the fact that he hasn't played for the first 2 seasons. I'd say Lip is a better candidate than Prophet.
Okay, I can agree with that.
I would say saying Prophet is without a doubt the GOAT is just a foolish take.
Yes.
And it's one founded not watching the games and listening to Plat Chat or Tactical Crouch.
True. You're absolutely bang on. I think we've gone around in circles with a couple of these teams now, so I'm very happy with our progress here.
All right.
Now, we have to go deeper. We have to go to the bottom to wrap this up.
The Boston Uprising?
Lower than Boston.
Vancouver Titans.
Power rankings.
Vancouver Titans. At least they've signed Deepay, and now he should be properly warmed up with his team and his former players. And Mira, who's now on Vancouver Titans. I was very surprised that Florida just didn't have a spot for him, and they replaced him with Ixie. Ixie is now back, baby, fully loaded on the Florida Mayhem.
Yep.
But to do that, they've dropped or signed Vancouver Titans has signed Mira. He was a great little spot to put on there, but probably at the worst time because he had him faced off against his own team. And, how are you supposed to pull a hat trick and try to outplay your own former teammates in such short notice?
Especially when you've got Sky Ripper on your team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing to say against Sky Ripper right now, but yeah, look, it's still a developing team. Developing coaching.
It's halfway through the season. How long do they need to develop?
Flubby,
but at the same time, to defend the Vancouver Titans, given the fact that their schedule for Midseason Madness was that they had to play the Gladiators, the Fuel, the Shock, the Outlaws, and the Reign, how is any other team supposed to win those? Let alone the Vancouver Titans, who's just got it rough in that region.
Yeah. Also, the Vancouver Titans, under Flubby and Pew, they did not play Aztec at all. And I think that kind of doomed the team. Because if you look at Sans and I's preseason power rankings, we had them pretty high. I had them 14th, he had them 11th.
I'm looking at my power rankings on the screen right now. This was right before the season started. I'd sort of matured, thinking that, I'd sort of gone off of my high on the support line of Massa and Aztec at the time. And I realised that the Vancouver Titans is not 11th place material.
No.
And I eventually put them at 14th, just below the Fusion, which
there's a lot that could bolster this team to be.
I think I can hear a Fusion.
I
think I can hear a Fusion fan outside of my house right now, just screaming at that take. But it was true.
Remind me again, is this your nan?
Yeah, my nan is a Fusion and Fuel fan.
Is she a Fusion apologist, though?
No, I don't think she's an apologist, surely. She's not that big on Bellasaurus.
Well,
if you've been harpering on her.
She refers
to him as belly ass.
Yeah, she refers to him as belly ass.
Come on, belly ass!
Or belly ache. During the kickoff clash and the Midseason Madness
and the qualifiers. Yeah, no, it's going to just carry on. It's just going to be his identity to her.
He's
so much more than that.
After Belisaria's ghost shatters on Lijiang Control Center and the adventure he went on Eichenwald Point B against the Hangzhou Spark, I believe, I think he improved so much, especially on Wrecking Ball, to a point where, granted, if you see any recordings of me, talking about how Belisarius was a bottom 5 main tank, I still stand by that with what I saw of him on T1 before the season started. But I think there's room for improvement. And if he can improve his Winston the same way he's improved his ball, I would not mind him staying for another season.
That was me just remembering that Belisarius, Zest, and MN3, all three of them came from Tier 1, which is the Academy roster. So it's just kind of clicks to me, Belisarius and Fixer, sorry. Just no disrespect to Fixer. Fixer's probably a underrated player on this roster. I mean, he definitely shines just as much as Belisarius. Overrated? Probably. But he still keeps it up in check. His Bergita is a lot more
I've seen Fixer die against more dives than he has prevented.
That's true.
I want to trade him for Faith next season, or someone from contenders like Bliss. or Hyunjae, or Sanguinar, or even Ayden. I don't know. We get the better Uprising Academy main support.
Or what about Princess?
Is Princess Korean?
Yeah, I don't know anything about Princess.
Princess is Chinese, but
yeah,
that's like you cannot deny the talent. Okay.
If we're allowing Chinese players, then why didn't we just sign Xerneas?
Yeah, just sign Xerneas. Oh wait, I got him.
Got him. No, Princess is the exception to not full Korean. His talent level is too high.
I was hoping that Kyo would be the exception to a non-full Korean, but you know. Instead we
has been doing okay.
Instead we got a support line that looks AFK whenever they get dived. But
they still managed I must go.
To get
Mike?
Okay, see you, Mike.
Goodbye.
Oh, see ya. Goodbye. Missed that.
Good having you here. I think if the Philadelphia Fusion actually pulls out the bag for this next off season and actually, follows the advice of professionals instead of the fan base, I think that they would. I think that they would look like a very scary team that could probably punch up against the Gladiators the same way that the Spark is right about now. You know, they just need a better support line.
Yeah.
Well, I say better support line. They need a more flexible support line because Aim God Zen is good, but I just don't like what I've seen of his Ana and Bath.
Yeah, I was gonna say his Bath is probably. Look, that's the thing, right? With Shu, it's like his little thing with Gladiators is that his Moira very serviceable, but would you rather put him on Ana? Yeah, that again, Shu's been like trademark known for his Baptiste over on last year's Countdown Cup with his massive plays, and that's just how he does things. After you build up that confidence, he's been playing with mixed roster teams, went on to Guangzhou, and then his success on Guangzhou was just essentially that summer showdown of 2020, and then moves on to an NA team like with the Glads, and it's really stuck. He's all in with this team, and I'm really grateful that he's nothing but more outstanding than he usually does, just so that he can make a name for support players everywhere. So, in saying that, do you want to switch your Discord share screen to your power rankings, or you can jump to a power rankings first? Let's build one. To update our power rankings now.
That is a good idea. Why didn't I think of that before?
Let's wrap this baby up to the power rankings website. So we'll just pause for a bit to get that going.
Let me change the window. Right here, I believe.
Yeah, you got it.
There we go.
Do you want to reset, or are you happy with where they are now, and we'll just shuffle them with the tier breaks?
Well, let me just.
So we've got. Yeah, we got anyone else on the top? That's a very dramatic change, by the way.
Let me just put a tier break there.
I think there's a couple of people.
Shock second.
Who can solidly say that? Yes. Where is Seoul Dynasty? Would you put them higher or lower? I'll be definitely higher.
Then where they are right now, I'd probably. I think we need to I think we need to work on the Hangzhou Spark.
Hangzhou
not right
handedly
here.
Are in top 5.
Sad, despite what my takes were on the Atlanta Reign and being downgraded, even in coaching after losing onto. You know, I do think that the Atlanta Reign is sort of pulling it out of the bag, especially with Hawk solo tanking.
Hawk and Gator are worthy of being up there because they are just the top in NA.
Gator? Well,
Hawk has been more recently coming up on.
Yeah, I rate Hawk.
Gator.
No offense to him, man. I just rate Hawk individually as a more valuable and flexible player than Gator. You know, and with Hawk sort of taking up this mantle as a solo tank, it's sort of invigorated the Atlanta Reign into performing at this consistent consistently top 3 level. They've been top 3 for these past 2 tournaments. So it'd just be like a slap in the face to not have them at 3rd. Let me just put the Hangzhou Spark right there. I don't think there's too much objection to that.
Nah.
Or at least I hope there's not too much objection to that. I mean, there's an argument for Philadelphia Fusion, given the fact that they did beat them, but I think the Philadelphia Fusion are very meta-dependent currently on Belthria Ball and
who knows if they play
Aim
Junkerqueen
then.
at all, right? I mean, are there any teams who are countering the Junkerqueen by not playing her as like off meta pick?
In contenders,
Not
I've
really, right? It's
I've
not
only
that common.
seen. I swear I've only seen like 3 teams play it differently in Korea. I saw who I can't remember if it was WGS or Panthera run
They played against
Wrecking
Up
Ball
Academy.
on Gibraltar. Well, no, I think it was Panthera before they went down into the lower bracket, where they ran Arpen on Wrecking Ball, which to try and counter the Junkerqueen, and he just got demolished.
Yeah, so
But
my question, should I correct myself?
at the same
and
time,
I think you know what I mean.
Donghak and Cleston
Who did
played Ball and Diva.
Yeah, who played off? It was Diva. Yeah, Diva did come up a bit. So did Wrecking Ball against the Junkerqueen matchups, and they were fairly successful.
Talon was the only team that really managed to find success with it.
Relatively speaking, yeah. They had enough competition to test it out.
Yeah, if the Philadelphia Fusion could, I don't know, hypothetically manage to make that work, or I don't know, maybe Fury is a much better Junkerqueen than Benar or Gushui. Who knows? I mean, I don't know actually. Zeph's Genji I have more faith in than Alpha Yi Genji, but I've also just got a lot more faith in Spark's support line, and I've just got more faith in the Spark to be a more consistent team. It went to map 5, I don't know. That's interchangeable.
If there was an elimination match between Hangzhou Spark and Philadelphia Fusion in the Summer Showdown tournament, it was elimination round, not necessarily finals, not necessarily winning, because winning would take you to losers.
It went the distance.
Who would you put in favor this time round, based on upcoming matchups? You're gonna have Shy on the Sojourn or Alpha Yi on the Genji.
I don't know. Who's the better main support, Irony or Aim God? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe I could use the maybe I could use the same copium for Aim God as I did for Lastro going on to main support. The fact that maybe he's got the main support brain more than Irony. I don't know.
Possibly.
Who knows?
You could go either way with that, but it's just whether or not you have them below Atlanta in your current preseason power rankings. So I guess it's only fair that the most accurate preseason power rankings at mid-season, Summer Showdown qualifier power rankings, just however you put it, right now the rankings that we saw earlier on stream probably is the most accurate. So we're not trying to do that. What we're looking at is going forward, does anything shift? Like with Houston.
Houston.
Yeah,
no.
Does Houston shake?
I don't know how I want to rate Houston. Like, I haven't seen any news about them shifting Pelican Piggy and Iris. So I don't know where I want Houston. I don't know if I want them above Dragons and Fuel.
Are they higher or lower than London?
I should probably bring Florida right up here.
Yeah.
And London.
Yeah.
Not Boston. I'll just keep those there.
Yeah. The OCD in you, I can feel it, just like I am, just looking at this. It's like you want to change a bunch of things at once, but just keep them as they are, as you move one at a time. And maybe we'll come together.
Chengdu way
the
down there.
pieces are really bringing Chengdu down, aren't you? But in
So,
comparison to most
hate to do
NA,
it, but yeah.
that's why. NA has just looked far more competitive this season, so props to them. They have so many teams to play with each other in Overwatch 2. That's why I think artificially the East Division is really struggling to get better scrim partners, because while they have quality talent in contenders teams, they're just not all Overwatch League teams. They just run on different wheels and systems. But of course, they're in hot demand. Everybody wants to play the contenders teams of Korea for warm-up. It's just a matter of time zone difference, and they're just in that time zone to make up and compensate for what is a bunch of NA talent that they could be scrimming with each other if they're 12 other opponents. But they're only ever going to go through so many. If I recall the whole blacklisting controversy that was reportedly happening between Atlanta Reign and London Spitfire.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're chummy about it, so I won't get into any details because I'm sure it's way past any kind of debate or controversy anymore.
Yeah, I think after London beating Reign 2 times, I think I think it's all calmed down.
Yeah, the stamp of approval. There's no need to try to deal with it here. Just deal with it in the tournament if you make it.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah,
I'm looking. I'm looking at the Dallas view. Well, I mean,
do they go higher or lower? I think.
Sadly, I got to put Boston up here. Let me make sure this.
Nah, see, I don't mind
back
that.
Here, Valiant, probably down here.
Just under.
Justice.
Ooh. I'd be careful putting them above Chengdu. Even I'm cautious of that.
No, I don't know. I know that Chengdu still got Leave.
Yeah, the known qualities here. Can Abrita outplay Leave is a real good question.
Leave and Monk.
Oh yes, Monk and Yveltal
versus a Predator and Farway.
Yeah.
Yveltal versus Nisha. I don't know. I'm looking at Choice of One and Chrome.
Yeah.
And I think they can edge themselves above Daisy and Jinmu, without a doubt. So let me get them out of this tier break. Let me just
So remind me what the tier breaks are: top, mid, and bottom. And then what is it? Super bottom.
Shit, I should probably have another.
I would say just break them between top 4. Even if you don't necessarily think that the tier break accurately depicts their power.
Unless you want an argument to put the Justice right here, or do you think there's a chance that the Justice managed to meet their expectations?
I think they can meet their expectations at some point. I don't know if it's at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't know yet. Especially Valiant, because they've got Marvel and now he should be cozy, but now they really need to make money with that kind of investment. So maybe they might be under a lot of stress again.
We don't. I mean, Assassin and Marvel are both good tanks at what they do, but I could not say that they're flexible. Well, Marvel is very flexible, but let me rephrase that. I can't say that they're flexible and great at what they do. So I'm just looking at this at this section between Outlaws and Mayhem. I'm trying to get your thoughts on it. Where do you want them to go, or try and pitch me on the Dallas Fuel redemption arc, because I'm looking at. I mean, I look at their tank and support line, and I'm thinking that they should not be below the bottom 5.
I think they could just be struggling with Overwatch 2.
Sorry.
Honestly.
Sorry.
And it's a very brutal take to take, because I've also been hounded down for last year because they couldn't make it into the finals of last year. The grand finals was very much a real beatdown if you weren't Shanghai Dragons or Atlanta Reign when they had Pelican. This year, Dallas Fuel, I don't know what it is, but I think they are having some tank troubles, which is just an iconic Dallas Fuel moment. But it shouldn't be happening with this stacked of a team. So let me be clear, I don't think the tanks are bad. I also don't think they're having trouble swapping them in and out to give them a bit more diversity in their strategy.
I know the tanks aren't bad.
Oh, heck, even
they've got like a top 3 tank line.
Even the DPS Gurio and Edison aren't particularly hard to work with from just looking at how they synergize. But that, I think, is the kicker. Just enough of these, I don't think they go above and beyond their current roles. That don't make them below average. They're certainly not mid.
I think the damage line is the biggest problem with the Dallas Fuel, because like Edison has only really impressed me on the Reaper. Gurio has not impressed me.
Not consistently, I would agree.
Very much consistent. It's consistently been worse than he has been better.
Yeah, he's packed a punch, but just like in the same way, Dante has been really good at Doomfist. It kind of has a tipping point, right? That they've just passed and they're falling a little
temporary.
It could be temporary.
You know, hell, even
I certainly want to believe it is.
Didn't he get gapped by Shockwave, Gurio?
Yeah. So I'm not optimistic that that's gonna, help him thrive if he's feeling.
Yeah, like no offense to Shockwave. Shockwave's a decent player and all. I just don't want my hit scan to be gapped by him. If I was the Dallas,
Dallas should be.
If I'm the Dallas Fuel, I'm looking at the free market and I'm seeing that Glister has been released from the Paris Eternal, and I'm seeing that you've got a couple of lackluster hit scan players, and you need sort of like that whole fixing, and that Glister would be a good and cheap solution to that.
So I think that just keeps Dallas actually lower if you can't make them any higher than Shanghai.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't feel comfortable.
Philadelphia being higher than Shanghai. I personally think yes, they can. It's just not consistent enough that Houston shouldn't even be up there. Just by that logic.
Yeah, I mean, do we put Outlaws
Houston higher than Dallas?
Yeah, because the argument. There's two arguments you can make. You can say that Houston did quite good during this tournament, and they just barely fell short against the Atlanta Reign. The other argument you can make is the fact that the Houston Outlaws were playing in their, what is on paper, their best possible meta, and they just barely scraped through against the Florida Mayhem and the Toronto Defiant. So
also their preferred meta, let's not forget, for London and Toronto especially, they kind of had this tipped in their favor more than Kickoff Clash did.
Yeah.
But Toronto didn't qualify, London did, but they just weren't able to clinch it above San Francisco Shock, which they put up a good fight, to be clear.
Toronto did qualify for mid-season.
Oh, sorry. My deja vu is hurting me. But look, Toronto Defiant Summer Showdown. They're hosting it. Do they get a homestand advantage just from their appearance at their hometown?
Ooh. Good point.
Yeah, see? There's nothing to it. Toronto Defiant homestand buff. We've seen it before, and it didn't work for Dallas. But I think that's Dallas.
I don't know. There's two realities we can go forward to. We can go forward to the reality where their roster stays the way it is, which I think would be
quite likely
something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can go through the reality where they sign Kuki and Yaki. Who knows? But assuming that they just keep everything how it is, I think below Outlaws and Soul is reasonable. Hell, do we even put? Do we have APAC as like this big 4 line, like this big conga line?
the APAC conga line where Gongjo Charge just leads the back with LA Valiant.
Oh yeah.
Oh no! Don't even bother dragging them up. Don't worry. I know what you're thinking, but that little conga line of Spark, Fusion, and Dragons and Soul, I like it. I like it for what it is, not necessarily the novelty.
Yeah. I mean, Soul and Fuel, they're very volatile. They can either be like, hell, Fusion is very volatile.
Just
like,
keep them there. If they're that volatile, at least they make it into qualifiers, quarters.
I could have them there, but at the same time, they have
disappointed.
They could get so unlucky with the meta, and they could fuck up. They could
disappoint you. It's that simple. They could just
go right down there.
But their ceiling is actually being met. That's the difference.
Like right here, let's just say right here is during regular season, but then like I don't know, right here or here or here is like during the tournament. It just depends whether they can punch through during the regular season qualifiers to pop off in the tournament.
Okay,
you got.
I'll just leave
playoff aim god.
Leave them above dragons. It's just really funny to see someone who genuinely sees this as a serious power ranking, and just think that that's unacceptable. The Fusion would be above dragons. I mean, this is the time and place for that.
Well, it's not unacceptable given the recent results of how
precisely
of how nearly everyone except for Lip and Void on the Shanghai Dragons in this tournament just dramatically underperformed. Yeah, there is potential for them to punch back up, but right now to have them anywhere above third in APAC is just a little bit copium inducing.
Florida has someone playing Junkerqueen. That is a sentence. Yeah, like I don't.
Do we put them above Outlaws?
Can you put them above Defiant? I think so. Hopper would be the hyperflex to play a Junkerqueen, but I don't know how well that is over his Diva.
You could have,
which might even be more comfortable.
Yeah, but at the same time, Muse.
Yeah, you gotta check that out. Yeah, Muse aggressiveness channeled into the most bogan Australian to ever make their way to the Overwatch roster since Junkrat and Roadhog. I think that would be a fantastic Muse pickup.
Muse playing an Australian alongside, where was I going with this? Alongside the homestand buff, Let's just put him right up here. Let's grab a couple of these tier breaks.
Dude,
there we go.
I will fly personally to the UK to have a beer with you if Toronto Fire take out Gladiators just on the homestand buff advantage alone. Like, they're not rigging the system, they are just playing their heart out in Summer Showdown. If they make it to top 2, I will book a flight in the next 2 years to make that genuinely happen. I will make tickets to fly up into somewhere with more coronavirus sightings than anywhere else in the world that I'm in exposure to. Because I'm going to be spending time in Australia. Why not just go a bit further?
I don't like the taste of beer, but I'll definitely share a wine tasting session or something.
That I can do.
If that's your type of thing.
I would definitely do wine tasting. Wine glasses everywhere.
Not the sort of weak stuff where you have to spit it back out.
God, no. I would never. Not on white wine, not on red wine. Both of them, they work in perfect harmony. Stronger the better. Now then, Florida and Toronto, are we still contested there?
Can I convince you to put Defiant above the Fuel?
Only if you're convinced that Sparkle has dropped out harder than Hisu. Because Hisu has only just been a trending name.
Hisu, I think Hisu has been trending upwards.
Overall, he's doing fantastic for the team. It's just why aren't the results able to hold him up to that standard?
Finale.
Oh, we did skirt over Finale, but I don't think it's the Finale either. I think it's Twilight who needs to step up his game, because I've seen Slime play in Contender's career. And frankly, I think it's Twilight who can up his game, but he really needs to show that he's not going towards the retirement village at the end of the season. Think of this as his last chance to really break through, rather than to play acceptable.
I think Twilight has been. I think Twilight has been at the very least top 10 this season. I mean, what you got is Shu, Violet, Finn, Ultraviolet.
I want him to break. Not break character, but
Creative, Fielder, Iris, Monk. You got to have Twilight at least up there in that top 10.
If they can do what their slogan asks them to, which is to rise together, then I think this is a good spot for them. This is the spot to rise together. If they're going to peak...
Above the fuel.
Homestand time, baby. Above the fuel. You don't have to entertain me. I'm thinking for the rest of the people listening. Better watch out for Toronto for Summer Showdown.
Oh shit, yeah, there's people reading into this copium. I don't know.
That's all you gotta do.
Either of these are very, plausible. It just depends on whether you think...
The podcast listeners want to know, what are you doing? You are currently jiggling between the top 10
It just depends whether you think Gurio or Finale is more of a dead weight to this team. It's all opinionated.
I know, it is all opinionated. That's why nobody should take this seriously and put comments into our YouTube channel. That's not a great place for actual thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Opinions
are allowed, even if they're incorrect.
You are allowed to post. We aren't stopping that, but just know your takes may not be taken as seriously as ours. Ours is no better. Florida Mayhem in London. This is a good spot, or do you think London bumps up one or two steps towards Houston or above Houston? I think that would be above Houston by this point.
Well, Junkerqueen Goats. Quite a rush-centered meta.
Heavy synergy is essential, and Paris Eternal, they did it in their debut season. Can they do it now? No, put them at number 1. That can't possibly happen overnight.
You don't know. Dawn could break out and be the best Junkerqueen the world has ever seen. I'm just saying.
I'm just going to kick myself if Paris actually has a massive step up from their current positions where they've only gotten 1 win, haven't they? They're not the worst of the worst, but they've only got 2 wins, haven't they?
Oh, shit.
Look at the
How
standings.
much can I... Oh, the standings right here.
Oh, yeah, you got it. They are only just 1-1, and Vancouver is on 0. That's the only difference between the APAC and the Western NA bottom teams.
I'm looking at this bottom 4. I'm trying to work out where everybody belongs because there's so many possibilities. You could
they should be going up, but only so many people will rise up.
Eternal, I don't know because they've technically downgraded their damage line, even though
they've widened the gap even more to how high they can reach.
Even though Dove has looked good. And, the team in itself has actually beaten the New York Excelsior. Boston Uprising is kind of Uprising. I don't know. DP might have got through to the Vancouver Titans. They took a map off the rain.
I think the coaching diff will really tell.
They took 2 maps off the Justice.
If they can take it off the Justice, that's a good sign. New York, they can keep taking maps but never get the wins. Objectively, at least they're performing.
No more Kooky, but they've got Ho 1 now.
They do have Gesture. Let's not forget Gesture when he got signed midway into
They have more flex sports than coaches.
So I don't know where I even put New York here, let alone Paris and Vancouver. It's just that what Paris has done is that they've signed Dove, they've signed Wub.
And Wob.
Yeah. Is there anything that they're going to surprise us with? Because I think they are still technically on a very budget roster, but that budget roster is doing them far better than... To be fair, last year's was actually extraordinarily good. And that was with extremely short amount of scrim time, travel, because they never got to be outside of the EU while the hosting NA. Paris,
you can say that they've...
stepped up, but now they've stepped back down.
There's 2 sides to that. There's 2 sides to that story because, they might have played extraordinary. Some might say they had an extraordinarily good season for the expectations that were given to them in the preseason.
This time, are they just meeting them?
But then you also need to look at the fact that 4 out of 8 of their wins were against the Vancouver Titans and the London Spitfire. And then you've also got to look at another one of their wins being against the Boston Uprising. not too impressive.
In the current season, though, it's just the one win, and that was with
And the
Glister.
Dynasty, and that was with Glister. No, it wasn't with Glister.
Oh, it wasn't? No, that's right.
No,
it was with Wub.
It was with Wub and Dove against the New York Excelsior.
Sheesh.
I don't know if I want to say that they're going up, but it could
I'd
happen.
be optimistic.
I don't see it.
That's the pieces that they have now to catch up. Not catch up in the sense that they'll make into Summer Showdown qualifiers based on previous matches, but the 6 games tells you anything. It's just the strength of schedule at this point, especially in NA. Your strength of schedule is so key. If you have any of those top teams lacking in your next 5 to 6 matchups, I think you are going to qualify. That's going to put you in more favorable advantages to succeed. But if they're going to be up against those top teams, then, Bob's your uncle. That's just going to be the same situation they've been in all of last year, just with less expectations.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, sorry. Paris shouldn't be that low. I don't even think so either. But with New York, how they're performing, and Boston, how they're performing,
I don't think. I think it's unreasonable to put New York and Titans that low when there's more hope for them. A better strength of schedule for the Vancouver Titans now, as well as DP, having more time to coach players, and King from North American Contenders getting assigned to the Titans.
Yes, that's right.
Most likely to play alongside Aspire.
Yeah, so there is some retooling that's been good, at least to get you excited of some changes with DP as leadership and Mura as co-captain in a sense.
Anything could happen. Maybe, I don't know, False is the best Junkerqueen in the world.
Yeah, you never know.
Who knows?
Maybe he channels the Junkerqueen
just gets
better than anyone.
On his old team.
Yeah, he'd give Paddy Pan a run for his money. Of the Spire would give Paddy Pan a run for his money.
Maybe all the players on the Vancouver Titans are just beyond saving. And they go to Oblivion.
Oh, no. They're not that out of contention that they relegate to contenders level.
Yeah, I mean,
that. Not with these 20
they've got
teams.
some saving graces. Vancouver could be here. They could be here.
Totally. I do feel that they can't bump above Valiant as long as Valiant have the kind of staying power that they have with Marvel.
Yeah, Valiant
can
just stay consistent enough.
Even their support's just better with Molly. Molly, they took a Guangzhou. They actually looked good.
Well, yeah,
but a whole lot better than the rest of the competition in APAC, unfortunately.
But Guangzhou took far away Aprita, Jimmy, and Xerneas.
I know, it's one of those many very difficult changes, and it's the first time I've seen a big.
It might look better.
Yeah, a big fall to grace for Guangzhou. It was a long time coming, for a year at least. So it beats me if Guangzhou can rise to the occasion. I hope the power rankings can bring them up. I think that should be about time that we wrap up. We gotta.
If I may, just put the Titans above the Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Yeah, that. Honestly, I'm fine with this rankings unless you want to grab a tier break, put it anywhere up here.
Yeah, I would. Usually I would put the tier break. It's probably there, yes, because Seoul and Shanghai are very close to each other. If you really wanted to, I would even drop it down a rung to bring Seoul up to Shanghai.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks right, I'd say. Given Dallas's performance, I mean, Seoul did take Atlanta to a map 5. They did get destroyed by the Hangzhou Spark, but it's the Hangzhou Spark. It's the best team in APAC. Of course you're going to get destroyed.
Yeah, Ayven, thanks for joining us at the last minute on the Ecopoint Podcast. Do you think Hangzhou Spark is the pinkest team in the Overwatch League?
What?
Look at the screen share.
I am.
And do you see the pink team there? Are they the pinkest team that deserves to be up the top?
Yes. Yes, I love Spark. Electricity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's such a great choice. Great take. Very based of you.
I also love Vancouver Titans.
You do? Is it because of how
Yes.
False is the greatest on Sigma? And that he can't wait to play Junkerqueen?
It was just at the bottom of the list, so I thought it would be funny if I said that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the entire bottom of this list is quite interchangeable. You know, Vancouver could be up here, they could be down here.
Wait,
Who
wasn't
knows?
Paris good? I thought we liked Paris.
Paris was good in 2020.
Oh,
Back-
that's the
back
last
when they
time I
had-
played Overwatch.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
figured.
back when Paris had Sparkle, Hanbin, Fielder, all of whom have gone to the Dallas Fuel.
So yes, there was a time they were really good. They actually made money because they got a
Fuel-
trophy. They got a championship.
Fuel-
then.
Fuel is so expensive now. Like yesterday, I went with my dad to get the tank.
So say that again. You and your dad went to grab tank fuel, Dallas fuel.
I think
no.
you're,
We've lost
I
her.
think you're plugging out.
We lost her to the Dallas fuel.
Oh man.
Well, now if you
Ah.
see a new support player join the Dallas fuel, you know it's this Ayven character who will be joining them very shortly. They're just finalizing the papers, the same way they did with Sideshow. Put her on a 40-day contract.
That's certainly a one smooth way of covering up Discord glitching out.
Yeah, that's just how they take him away these days. They don't even just they just do it on a call. That's it. The conversation was good.
I'm happy with this ranking.
Me too.
I mean, unless you really hate the Justice and you just want them down here, but I think I want to give the Justice one more tournament worth of benefit of the doubt.
Justice doesn't deserve as many chances as they've been given, but I think this
They,
is the exception.
Yeah, like they've still got the good players. They've still got Happy. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Mag is the best Junkerqueen the world has ever seen.
I don't know. Former runaway player Mag does seem like the guy who does calculated attacks. Everybody else goes very aggressive with this hero, but if you time it right, I've seen some really great players like Jasmine and Contender's career who was actually devastating getting those landed ultimates, because it's all about the ultimates. So everybody, doing the goats thing, they just build up the ultimates and they all just throw them and slam them into each other. With the Rampage ultimate for Junkerqueen, that's the decider for every single one of these teams. If Ryder pops off on Junkerqueen, it's gotta happen.
Yeah.
And you'll see it visibly on the screen with all those little purple glowy objects. That's their health bars that won't be able to regenerate. That's ultimately what decides if this power ranking hangs in the balance, or if we just stick with the standings, or if any of the coaching even matters at this point, because they're letting a whole new hero.
I'm a little bit too high on the Guangzhou charge still. There's a part of me that wants me to put them between, I don't know, Outlaws and Defiant.
Oh, you want to go even higher than this? Well, I think we'll have to save that till we get some game time. So do catch up this weekend.
Yeah.
Following weekends. All in August is a Summer Showdown qualifier. Come back in September for the Summer Showdown tournament, where we hopefully get to do some streams, co-casts, co-streams. Gonna be the best thing ever. Do check us out on Twitter at Ecopoint Overwatch, Spotify, Ecopoint Podcast. You can also check us out on YouTube, where we've been on here live. So do have a good time. Enjoy.